Dun 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 dun. This is a dangerous video, folks. You can hear the Jaws music in the background. Okay, yeah, it's not in key. I get it. It's a little bit different than that. But still, this is a dangerous video because, for me, this information could be outdated the moment I press publish on YouTube. Depending on what Jimmy Rutherford and Patrick Alvin have cooking behind the scenes, do you smell what Patrick is cooking? He's the ultimate heel, the final boss for a reason, folks. The bald-headed man teaming up with John Cena. Anyways, this is dangerous because if there's a trade that happens whilst I'm recording this audio or whilst this video is rendering or whilst it's being uploaded, then all of a sudden this video conversation goes out the window. But I'm willing to take that risk because it's been a pretty slow Tuesday, aside from the three-way Oilers, Bruins, and Devils trade and the Jake Evans signing, that I wanted to just take some time to talk about this. Now, there were some other signings too, but look, we're not going to make a video about Jesper Boquist signing with the Florida Panthers, as much as I hope that Panthers fans would want to talk about that. Today, we're talking about some tweets, because this was posted earlier this morning on social media by Abu Amar. Take a look at this. He said that Elliot Friedman said on 650, the national show with Marchesi and Futa, keep an eye on Vancouver's UFAs. There have been some movement there. This was then clarified on the 650 show, The National, and we had ourselves some interesting directions and signs as to where these conversations could be going down. And it all comes to us via Rick Dhaliwal, because he went out there and replied to this Abu Amar tweet saying, hey, it could be Pius Suter. The Canucks and Suter are far apart in contract talks. As of right now, it is quiet on the Boeser and Soucy fronts. So, let's talk about this, right? Vancouver's UFAs could be on the move. There could be some conversations about these dudes. Welp, who do the Canucks have that are UFAs? If we ignore the guys in the AHL, so we're not talking about Guillaume Brisebois, we're not talking about Christian Wolanin. On the main Vancouver Canucks team, there are only 4 guys whose contracts are expiring in an unrestricted capacity at the end of the year. They are Brock Boeser, Pius Suter, Derek Forbort, and Noah Juulsen. That's it. Everybody else in this team is either an RFA like Niels Ullmann or Victor Mancini, or they have a contract extending past next year. So, with only 4 names to talk about as potential guys that are getting moved via Elliot Friedman, there are some conversations that we can have. Now, Pius Suter. Rick Dhaliwal says Suter the shooter could be in play here because he's far apart from the team in terms of contract negotiations. Pius is an interesting name because, okay, firstly, yeah, Pius is an interesting name, but Pius Suter in the trade conversation, that's an interesting name, because I don't think we've been talking much about him as a potential trade option at all, really. Mostly because I think a lot of Canucks fans would say that Suter has been very, very good this season, especially when you compare to the expectations. You know, he's a $1.6 million AAV guy, 28 years old, in the prime of his career, and he's got 28 points and 16 goals in 59 games this season. He's on pace for a 38-point year and 22 goals. His best season in the NHL saw him put up 36 points. He's on pace to beating that slightly, but he's already bested his career high in goals on an NHL season. This is a really strong hockey player with good intangibles, good mobility, good instincts. We saw what he was able to do last year when playing with Boeser and Miller, and this year he's really gotten that scoring up there. His shooting percentage is a lot higher. Suter the Shooter got his nickname for that very reason, and if he's going to get himself a pretty big payday in the offseason, I won't really be too surprised. His production is at a peak, his intangibles are working as well as they ever have, and the Vancouver Canucks, if they were to re-sign Pius Suter, which they could if they wanted to, I'm not going to say it's impossible, he's going to be a lot more expensive than $1.6 million a year. He's probably looking like a 2 times, to be honest. A 2x or maybe even a 2.5x. If he gets up to $3.5 million a year, I don't think that's unreasonable. Jake Evans in Montreal just got 2.8. I think Pius Suter is a lot better. So there is a little bit of panic, I would say, when you think about what exactly it is Suter to Shooter could be getting and whether or not Vancouver is going to be that team to get him. Right now, Suter is a very valuable piece on this team. His skill, his puck protection, his instincts, it's all geared towards helping the Vancouver Canucks when he makes the team better. We know this. Maybe in a very subtle way. Maybe it's not like he's going to score 100 points in a season like a Petey or a Miller, but we know that when Pius Suter is playing at his best, he is super valuable. So for Vancouver, you know, I'm not saying that he's immediately going to get traded, but they are far apart in contract talks. The Canucks have a few days to get this sorted out, or else they lose Pius Suter to free agency, and they lose him for nothing. So, is there a chance that they push a Pius Suter trade? I don't want to say it's impossible. Now, let's talk about some of the other players here, because Rick Dhaliwal did mention Boeser and Soucy. It's quiet for now. Look, I feel like when it comes to Brock Boeser, the fact that it's been so quiet and it's been so up in the air, even Rick Dhaliwal said this morning, there are 3 options. They could either sign him, they could trade him, or keep him. And it's like, okay, yeah, like, nobody ever thought any different. It's kind of ridiculous how we're not really steering towards any clear direction with Brock Boeser. At this point, I feel like in my mind, I'm starting to internally finalize the worst case scenario here. I'm like Han Solo in Carbonite. It's just kind of there. It's a block. It's a concrete, immovable thought that's not gonna ever leave my subconscious unless we see evidence of the contrary. The Canucks are just going to keep Boeser, and they're going to let him walk in free agency. They're going to lose him for nothing. He is going to be a total mishandling by the Vancouver Canucks. They are not going to get anything for this guy. Unless we start to see the tea leaves fall, some rumors going out there saying that the Canucks actually do have a trade on the table, or they do have a contract on the table that he likes, or whatever. Until we see that, I'm just starting to feel bad about it. This team is going to keep him. They're going to try to make the playoffs with him. They may or may not make the playoffs. Who really knows? But then by the time the offseason comes around, boop, oh, sorry, Brock, we're still not going to give you more than $8 million AAV and 5 years in total. They're not going to do it. They're just going to let him walk for free, and then they're going to lose on. The Canucks fans are going to be really pissed off. But it's like, hey, Aquilini got 2 playoff games at home. So that's what they wanted, right? That's why they're doing that. They are focusing on the now. They're having their own agenda rather than contributing to the long-term future of the team, because we know that's not exactly what the management or the ownership has in mind with this squad. They got to convince Quinn Hughes to stay, right? Anyways, Brock, I'm not really too convinced until we see a trade happen, which, look, it could happen like when this video gets up on YouTube. Who really knows? To end off this video, I wanted to say one more thing about Pius Suter. This was talked about on AFP Analytics Twitter in the replies of the Rick Dhaliwal tweet. Pius Suter probably could get a nice paycheck as a really solid defensive 3C, but that Evans deal probably doesn't help him. Evans got 2.8. Pius Suter's projected next contract is 4 years, $3.9 million a year. So AFP is projecting him as a near $4 million AAV guy. Who knows what Jake Evans' contract is going to do in terms of changing the Pius Suter contract status quo. But anyways, whether it's Vancouver that gives him that money, whether it's another team in free agency that signs Pius Suter for free, or whether it's a team that Vancouver trades Pius Suter to and then decides to re-sign him themselves, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about this Canucks trade update that's so up in the air, wishy-washy? I don't think we're going to get any answers until Friday, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.